From the mean streets of Newark, New Jersey, crime, violence, hard times, and trials. From the beginning, his talents were evident on the football field as well as on the diamond. And now, the coach of champions, Bo Porter.
Welcome to the show. You're watching and listening to Unfiltered with Bo Porter, a sports show inspired by players for our fraternity, fans, foes, and followers. For more behind-the-scenes content and extended interviews, subscribe to Unfiltered with Bo Porter YouTube channel and download the app.
Play ball!
Welcome to Unfiltered with Bo Porter. In this episode of Unfiltered, we will cover all the bases with our special guests, Mr. John Cotton, Mr. Roosevelt Brown, Mr. Bobby Jones, and my main man, Bryant Nelson, who can hit when he get out of bed. Today, we're gonna talk about some of the hottest topics that have been floating around the game of baseball, to the Hall of Fame discussion. Congratulations to Derek Jeter and Larry Walker. We will also talk about the players that did not get into the Hall of Fame. And when you think about the Hall of Fame and the voting of the Hall of Fame, we all know that the sports writers, they are gonna decide ultimately who gets into the Hall of Fame. You get 10 years to stay on the ballot. Larry Walker, who was in his last year, happened to get into the Hall of Fame this year, but there is some debate out there of other guys that should have been worthy but did not get in. We're gonna talk about all of that here on Unfiltered. Let's start with the Derek Jeter situation. For me, this is one of those situations that when you think about Derek Jeter, we all know the 5 championships, career 300 hitter, and what he meant to the New York Yankees as the captain of the New York Yankees. So I'm going to start with Roosevelt Brown because him and I have had this conversation. When you think about Derek Jeter falling 1 vote short of being a unanimous Hall of Famer, I'm going to pose this question because to me, it will lead us into the conversation about the voting process as it stands today. When you think about that, Rosie, how does that make you feel as a former major league player, knowing what Derek Jeter won means to baseball and that there was 1 voter out of 397 voters that decided, you know what, Derek Jeter is not a Hall of Famer?
Well, it was unacceptable to me. The Hall of Fame criteria are based on numbers, and I believe it should be legacy. Derek Jeter played 20 plus years with the New York Yankees, and most players, even in the Hall of Fame, played with different teams. He stayed with one organization. So I felt like he should have been one of the first ununanimous selected All-Star Hall of Fame players that should have gotten in. So I really did not like the fact that someone out there, and I would like for him to reveal itself, he chose the fact to not vote for Jeter, and I can't understand how could he even think of not vote for Jeter. I need to get some understanding.
Yes, and Rosie brings up a good point because again, we talk about the 397 votes. The baseball writers do not have to reveal themselves when they vote. They get to vote for up to 10 candidates that are on the ballot. They do not have to reveal who they vote for. Some writers over the years have taken it upon themselves to be more proactive and be more transparent. So when you think about the writer who did not vote for Jeter and has not to this point come forth and said, yes, I did not vote for Derek Jeter as the Hall of Famer, and here is why. Again, this is why we debate topics like this because it's something that is being discussed throughout the course of the game. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Bobby Jones, who actually played in New York, and he's familiar with the New York media as well. Give me your thoughts, Bobby, on Derek Jeter not being a unanimous Hall of Fame selection.
Well, it's disturbing. I mean, you know what type of player he is. To me, he's the greatest Yankee of all time. I mean, there's no way a guy from like Babe Ruth people consider, but you can't come with the Yankees organization and tradition. You can't come from the Red Sox and be the greatest Yankee. For me, I think Derek Jeter is not the greatest shortstop, but he's definitely, like what Rosie said, his legacy and all of that says he's a no doubt unanimous decision. And we put in a pitcher, a reliever of all things, as a unanimous decision last year, but is that realistic? the first closer to go in, and he's unanimous. Yes, he's the greatest thing. But all those position players, the starting pitchers, have to do their job before it gets to that man. And so there's a lot of things that go on. To me, Derek Jeter is a no-brainer. The system, well, it needs to change for sure. I mean, they should have to reveal the one guy who didn't vote for him. He should have to reveal and why he didn't do it, why he didn't vote for him. Because how do you not vote for him? How are you the only guy that didn't vote for Derek Jeter?
Well, you know, there's a saying where they say 100 Russians are not wrong. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Bryant Nelson. Nelly, obviously this is a hot topic. You want to give your take on it?
Oh, man. I really couldn't believe it. But then again, you can, because I'm a Ricky Henderson fan. And if you're considered the greatest leadoff hitter in the world, I couldn't see how they did that to Ricky also. So, but with the Jeter thing, especially with the Yankees not being relevant for a while, then coming back and Jeter winning 5 championships with the same team. No one is doing that nowadays. With free agency, he showed a lot of loyalty to his organization. He could have left a long time ago, and I just think for baseball, they need to stop. Maybe I'll say it's like the MLB or the NBA All-Star, right? You should have 10% of the players vote. You should have 15% of the writers vote, and then the people that's in the Hall of Fame should have a vote, and then collectively you decide. I don't think that the writers should be solely, and they had no, playing experience. And some of them hold grudges because maybe they have favorite teams. Somebody might not like Derek Jeter, a Red Sox fan, whoever. And I don't think that's the case. I shouldn't have a vote, in my opinion.
Those are all great points, and we'll pass it on to Mr. John Cotton, who has joined the set here. He's a former Olympic gold medal winner. John, what is your thoughts on this hot topic?
I think all these 3 guys make great points. And I was going to say what Nelly said, like loyalty. As we know in sports, there's not a lot of loyalty left in sports. I mean, people jump at the first chance they get, be it money, be it personal reasons, family reasons. But for him to play 20 years in New York, probably the most brutal place to play for his media and just scrutiny, he showed loyalty. So a lot of times it's not about your stats, it's about the person you are. And he showed he was a great person with his family, like his legacy, and just being loyal to one team, making sacrifices on, salary. I get this guy, I cut salary in half to get this guy, to help the team. He was truly like a team player. And like Nandy said about the players voting and the writers voting, we know guys that wasn't like with the media, and they'll probably never get in, but they have great numbers, but they just wasn't likable guys. But players know they were great guys because we played against them and played with them. So it's kind of like,
right.
Until that changes, it's always going to be guys left out. There was awesome teammates, awesome clubhouse guys, awesome guys, but the media don't see that. The media see him not like a Marshawn Lynch. They see Marshawn on the podium, but the locker room would kill to be on Marshawn's team. He's correct. Best role model, best teammate you can have. The media don't see that.
I was fortunate to play against Derek Jeter. I was fortunate to manage against him, and it's crazy because this was Jeter's last year, and they opened up against us his final season. And as the manager, I go to the park early, so I arrive at the ballpark about noon, and I would run the stadium stairs for my workout. I go out there to run the stadium stairs. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Derek Jeter's at shortstop. The infield coach is at home plate. He's got a bucket of balls. He's taking ground balls. About 15, 20 minutes. Finished taking his ground balls. He take about 10 rounds of BP, and he's whistling balls the other way. So I finish. I walk over. I said, DJ, hey. I said, when you finish here, I said, let me holler at you for a minute. And he goes, yeah, okay, all right, bro. So we finished, and we're standing there, and we're talking. I said, let me ask you a question, man. I said, I knew you when you were in the Florida State League, and I saw your work ethic then. You're now, in the last year of your career, and the work ethic has never changed. I said, just talk to me about why, that's your mindset. He said something that was absolutely profound. He said, Bo, the leader is not the person that's going to hit the most home runs or not the person that's going to win the most games. Right. The leader is the person that the other guys, they know that that person is willing to give of themselves for the betterment of the team. He said, and anybody that ever walked into our clubhouse, he said, I wanted them to look at me and say, that's what it means to be a Yankee. Right. So for me, I agree with Bobby. He's the greatest Yankee ever. Mm-hmm. But the last point I want to make about the person who didn't vote for him, I think there's two things that are happening with the Hall of Fame voting. One helped Larry Walker. The other, it hurt Derek Jeter. Mm-hmm. And this is why. You have a lot of the older baseball writers are falling off, and you have these new writers that are now coming in that are much younger. They are more analytically inclined. And Jeter told me in his last year, he said, Bo, it's time for me to go. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, I play shortstop. He said, they got me moving over here and over here. I'm like, look, man, I play shortstop. Right. He's just like, but what's happened is late in his career, they start talking about all of the defensive metrics and, that he's declining. And he's just like, hit me a ground ball, you out. Yeah. Right. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all of this UZR range, and he said, hit me a ground ball, you're out. Correct. But when you start to take all of those metrics into consideration, I think that's why Larry Walker got in. Because now, over the course of his first 5 or 6 years on the ballot, they wasn't looking at his defensive zone rating. They wasn't looking at his base running metrics. They wasn't looking at his WAR. Right. Now, as you start to take all of those things into consideration, he now becomes a no-brainer Hall of Famer for the new voter. Right. Whereas, again, you start to look at a guy like DJ, those older voters are now falling off. But needless to say, my final take on this, when I give someone an opportunity to vote, okay, for me, the legitimacy of their vote, to validate it to me, basically, I want to see who you vote for. Yeah. That will tell me whether or not I should respect any vote after that. Correct. Mm-hmm. Right. So if whoever you are, all right, and I'm talking to the person that didn't vote for Derek Jeter, the 10 people that he did vote for, to me, I can't even take him on his word that they Hall of Famers.
Right. I don't think 10 people on the list deserve it.
Because Derek, right? if they give you the list,
he's one of the first people
on the list.
Well, no, when they give you the list and they say, Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, you see all these names, and you get to Derek Jeter, and you say, I'm gonna give you guys an example. This is the analytics. This is an example. So I'm in Houston. Okay? And they came up with this system of how players are going to advance to the next level. So it was a data-driven system. They put all of these analytics, into the system. And at the end of each player, it's either a red light, a green light, or yellow. That was the color at the end, after they put all the data in. Okay? So obviously, I'm banging the table trying to get Carlos Correa. And they keep telling me he's not ready to move. So I said, what do you mean he's not ready to move? Well, it's still red in the system. So I'm like, red in the system? So I go upstairs. I said, let me see this system here. And they show all the at-bats and walks and pitches per at-bat and all these different numbers. So I turned to their whole team and I said, okay, here's my take on your system. If Carlos Correa, per your system, is not ready for the major leagues, we can get rid of the whole farm system. Because we don't have anybody ready.
Correct. Right.
He's the best you got.
He's the best.
Yeah. But now, when you look at the system, there's some green in the system. Yeah. So I call user error. There's something wrong here.
Right.
Because if you're telling me that Carlos Correa,
the number one prospect in the
is
organization,
not ready for the major leagues per your system, then how can anybody come out green? Right. So if you're this voter and Derek Jeter is not a Hall of Famer, how can anybody on your list be a Hall of Famer?
Right.
I close my case.
Can I? Let me add one point, and I want to talk to the same person that didn't vote for Jeter. Look at the guy's career. How many, we played with so many players, against so many players. Barry Bonds was traded, or he wasn't traded, but he played for another team. Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter to ever play baseball, in my opinion. Derek Jeter was not even in the conversation to ever be traded. The conversation never came up. The man played 20 years with the same team, won 5 championships, and he is the quintessential winner. If you start an organization,
one of the greatest organizations,
greatest organization, not baseball,
Yeah.
sports history.
You're right.
First of all,
you're right.
Sports history, and then the last game of his career, he got a knock to win the game.
Hollywood. You couldn't script it any better.
Walk off.
He had a walk-off.
But
he walked off the field a champion again.
Yes, hands held high.
Just like
How
Kobe,
can you not
Just
vote
like
for
Kobe.
this man?
But
Please acknowledge yourself on Twitter.
Mic drop.
Just apologize
Just like
on
Kobe,
Twitter,
dude.
and the world will be okay.
But you know the
Just
other
show us your
the other
list.
thing about Jeter.
The one thing I want to ask, can we just see your list?
The list.
Of who you
Just apologize.
What 10 players on that list was better than Derek? I don't know if that's how you guys make your decisions, but
Let's want to see who he voted for.
I just want to see the 10 people you voted for. That's it. That's
Derek
all I want
Jeter-
to see.
The other
Just
thing
let me
with
see
Derek
that and we're
Jeter,
good.
the other thing with Derek Jeter is he is arguably one of the greatest superstars in the sport ever.
Exactly.
I mean, there's not a
cut,
guy. But
no drama.
Guys want to know what Derek Jeter's doing. Guys want. I remember being in the All-Star game with him, and I was there because of my agency. And Derek Jeter came into the players associating the banquet, and he came walking in there, and he was the last one, of course, like he always is. And he came walking in there, and pretty much everything stopped, and everybody watched him walk to his table, and he sent a few people over to our table to grab David Wright, and he said to David, show you how to be a captain in New York. And I said to myself, this is a bad man. This is a bad man. And you know, it's when you got a room full of superstars and all-stars, and they're turning their attention to Derek Jeter like that, you know who the man is in the league, period. And so he's by far, it's not even close. He's a unanimous. He's one of the, like I said, I think he's the greatest Yankee of all time, and it's kind of ridiculous.
But you can see it coming with Griffey Jr.
Yes.
Because he by far should have been.
He should have been.
Come on.
But he had more injuries, though. He had more injuries.
Yes,
DJ played every day,
every day
for 20 years.
I get it,
shortstop.
But you could see it coming. If Griffey didn't get the unanimous vote, there probably never will be one for a position player.
Well, there's going to be
was
coming.
Right.
It's going to be one that's probably going to be Trout.
Out of those two, for like loyalty and just being a picture of the game or the persona of like when you have your own logo like of the game, it's kind of like the Jerry West of basketball. Like when you see Griffey and the kid, like
he was a guy.
Little kid. I mean, when you look at growing up, you're like, oh my god, you know.
And I
not to cut anybody's short, but we have to take a commercial break. We'll be back with more Unfiltered after this commercial break. Welcome to the show. You're watching and listening to Unfiltered with Bo Porter, a sports show inspired by players for our fraternity, fans, foes, and followers.
Play ball!
At Future All-Star Sports Development Academy, we are not just raising the bar, we are setting the bar for how champions are prepared and developed.
If I keep this barrel and the knob of this bat close to my body, whenever I'm ready to deliver my barrel, I can whip it.
For more behind-the-scenes content and extended interviews, subscribe to Unfiltered with Bo Porter YouTube channel and download the app.
Play ball.
Welcome back to Unfiltered with Bo Porter. We're talking about the Hall of Fame. It's a hot topic. Obviously we went deep into the Derek Jeter, and we briefly talked about Larry Walker. Again, congratulations to both of those guys. But as we would have it, we sit here today. There are a list of guys that are worthy of the Hall of Fame. You look at the number of votes, a lot of them are each inching closer to getting into the Hall of Fame, but they're not there yet. So we're gonna go around the table here, and I'm just gonna fire out a couple names. We're gonna try to do this more in rapid fire fashion. I'm gonna fire out the name, and it's basically in or out and why, okay? Nelly, I'm gonna start with you since you are the hit doctor. Pete Rose, in or out and why?
Because of what he was accused of happened as a manager, and I feel like in 4,256 hits, you have to play 20 years to get 200 hits. You'll have 4,000 and still be behind by 256. He's a GOAT.
Okay, Bobby Jones.
He's out. He's out because the first sign that you see when you walk into a major league or any locker room in professional baseball is about gambling. And so that is the very first sign that you see when you walk in. And so for me, he's still out. Even though I love the fact that he had 4,200 hits, and it's something that would probably never be broken. But when there are certain signs that go up and things that go up, and you just got to follow rules, you can't do that. He's out.
For me, he's in, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the same people that are keeping him out for allegedly gambling, not as a player, but as a manager, they fought very hard to legalize gambling in our game today. So for me, for that very reason, he would be in. Rosie.
In for me, same reasons you said. If we're gonna have gambling now at major league ballparks and things are going on in the game right now, I feel like at this stage he served his time as far as being suspended, and I think he should be reinstated and let into the Hall because he is the GOAT.
John Cotton.
I would say in, because like I say, you get that many hits and play that long, you should be in, because I think the way you play on the field is the way you should be judged. And if you do things off the field, you'll be judged by other people as far as that. That's a different area on that part.
Kurt Schilling, in or out?
I don't know, numbers wise, I think, at heart and what he brings to the game, he should be in. I don't know the reasons he's not in, but if you go by his numbers, he's not in the steroid conversation. He's not in the cheating conversation. He's not. So, as a baseball fan, and I watched him play, you don't have to be a fan of him personally or whatever. But for what he did, I would have to say yeah.
Bobby.
That's a tough one. I mean, to me, he comes up a little bit short on his regular season, but his postseason was so great, and we got a World Series ring out of it. So yeah, he's in.
To me, he's in. I think he was one of the most dominant pitchers in our era. I think Kurt Schilling is being held back more so for personal reasons than was performance on the field. So for me, he's in.
He's in for me too. It's all about what a player does on the field. He was a winner in the playoffs, and he had good numbers during the regular season as well. And I don't really care about what the media may think about the guy. It is what it is. The guy was just good enough to be in the Hall of Fame. So he was in for me.
JC?
I think he should be in, but like Bo said, recently he's not been well liked in the media. That goes again to show you how the media can influence your vote. So I personally think he should be in.
Okay, here's the big one. Barry Bonds, in or out?
Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player I've ever seen with my two eyes. He should be in the Hall of Fame on the 10 years or however many years he played with the Pirates alone, right? So if whatever allegations that he never passed the drug test or failed a drug test, he never failed, Barry Bonds, Hall of Fame, for sure.
That's as sure of a no-brainer as anyone up here. I think he's the best guy to ever put on a uniform. Barry Bonds is a special player, and no matter what era, no matter what you're saying, There was a point where he had 400 stolen bases, 400 home runs before any of this stuff started. So he's definitely in.
All right, I gotta take a deep breath for this one here, okay? Just like my first two ex-teammates here said it so eloquently, Barry Bonds is by far the best baseball player in the history of baseball. Kenny Rogers, one of my ex-teammates, said this to me about steroids. He said, Bo, it would make good players great, and it will make great players do things that you'll never think will be done in our game. Barry Bonds was a great player even before the steroid conversation ever became a conversation. When you look at how rampant steroids was in our game at that time, the problem with Barry Bonds, that the people that are not voting for him, is that they're looking at his numbers and you're talking about this guy hit 73. This guy walked 225 times in a season. He was intentionally walked
Bases loaded.
with the bases loaded. I mean, just think about that. The other manager going, you know what? I'm just going to give up 1 because I don't want to give up 4.
Right. Think about how special you are.
Just think about that for a
we're
second.
winning by 2.
Think about this.
Think how
I'm going to
special
give
you are.
up. I'm going to give up 1 because I don't want to give up 4.
Right.
The next thing I want to tell you is this: when you think about Barry Bonds and the number of times in which he was not just walked and walked intentionally, or the unintentional intentional walk, this guy would see 3 pitches in a game. 3 pitches
in a
that are
series.
hittable. And you know where they go? To the people.
In a series.
So for me, Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame. He is the greatest Major League Baseball player in the history of our game. Rosie Brown.
You guys have covered a lot of the bases, so you know my answer. It don't go without saying Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player anybody has ever seen. And talked about his numbers, boy, a little bit. I just want to elaborate on that or some. The guy had 250 walks and still hit 75 homers. If he would have gotten another 100 at-bats, whatever he was doing didn't matter because it was allowed back in our game. In that back then, if he would have got another 100 at-bats, the man would have hit 100 home runs. It goes without saying.
400 at bat. 400 plate appearances.
390.
400 at bats. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous.
74
And again, a point that needs to be made with this conversation here is that they talk about the steroid era like Barry Bonds was like the only person doing it, and it wasn't accessible to anybody else.
Right.
You know,
He was.
Can I make a point
He was
about
hitting
that too?
homers against guys
Right.
that were using steroids.
Another point about this is the commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig, is in the Hall of Fame. And all of this happened on his watch. So if the commissioner is allowed in, why the players are being held, and they're the ones that brought the game back from when we were about to strike.
I would agree.
That's what I was about to say.
I
At
would
the end of
agree.
the day, it was allowed. Okay, Barry Bonds wasn't on steroids, but if Ron Harper became Michael Jordan because of steroids, do you think Michael Jordan went and took steroids? I mean, the best players are going to keep being the best players.
Yes.
The only thing that Barry Bonds, he did what everybody else was doing, but he turned the game into a Little League game. And that's when all hell broke out, really.
That's when they shut
nothing,
the whole
nothing, That's what
program down.
happened. And
They
they
shut
were
the whole
going, they were
program
really hunting to get Barry Bonds.
Yes.
And what ended up happening, they got Roger Clemens, they got all these other guys, and they weren't really hunting for them. They were hunting Barry Bonds. And that's what they got. When they went after Barry,
And
they
one
got
person
everybody
didn't
else.
talk.
Well-
Plus, Barry's going to always be the scapegoat.
Exactly.
Like, he started out as like the figure of it, but then he kind of like got like too good, so he went really too good, and now he's like there's always going to be like the scapegoat.
Well, he was too good anyway.
Yeah,
So that's the problem.
So everybody else was doing theirs. Everybody else was doing theirs. And he was getting hurt.
But they were going from good to great.
They were going from good to great. He was already great.
He was already great.
And
That's why he went on to do things that we thought we would never see.
And that's why the whole program had to be shut down.
Personally,
Right?
I don't think he'll ever get in under this regimen because of that. Because like he went beyond what they thought was possible.
I'm gonna go on record. I'm gonna go on record.
It was legal.
I'm gonna go on record.
It was
I'm gonna go on record.
He went beyond.
I'm going to go on record right here today on Unfiltered. Barry Bonds will get into the Hall of Fame next year.
I will agree with that.
Next year, he will get in.
I know.
We got one more.
You should.
We got one more. We got one more.
Should have been already in.
We got one more. Roger Clemens.
Definitely. Like, no one who wants to face Roger Clemens. Like, seriously, like before, after. If Kurt Schilling, I said that about Kurt Schilling, Roger Clemens is better than Kurt Schilling. So he's in.
I'll say this, and again, we can go around, you know, the whole table here, and we can discuss this. Roger Clemens got 7 Cy Young
That's
awards.
it.
Right.
Barry Bonds, 5 MVPs.
7 Cy Young.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Who got the most no-hitters?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
He's got 7 Cy Young awards. And again, Roger Clemens was great even before all the speculation.
Right.
You know, whether he did it, how long he did it. This is the thing. The guy threw 97 before when he got off the bus.
No, he was that guy.
Yes.
This is my son. My son, we were just talking about, he's a huge Met fan. We were talking about Jacob deGrom, and he's saying, oh, well, Jacob's going to get the most Cy Youngs. I said, Braylon, that is not going to happen.
No.
I said, son, there's a guy named Roger Clemens that has 7 right now.
So you know what happens?
In an era
And this young
where
is
offensive
32
numbers,
years old right now.
in an era where offensive numbers were amazing.
Skyrocket.
Amazing.
He did it during the steroid era.
Say it again.
He did these numbers during the steroid
Which
era.
makes it that much
Exactly.
more
Unquestionable.
impressive.
Great.
Him to me is like what with Bonds, right? He was so good already, he didn't need it. But once he found out everybody else was staying healthy and doing their thing on it, why not? So it makes greater.
Yes.
It's not his fault. It was legal.
It makes
at the
those
time,
guys do things
right?
that we never
So
thought
let's
would be
not
possible.
pretend like we were getting tested for it. You know what I mean? No one was getting tested, so it wasn't illegal.
And you know, many people, and all of us have been in the game a long time, many people have asked me this question because I played during that era. And they say, you know, you don't feel bad about it? Or, I mean, how do you feel about those guys? I say, you know why it don't bother me? It's because, yes, I played during the steroid era, but it's not like the steroid era came into our game and they said, well, you know what? We're only going to make this available for a select group of people. It was actually available to everyone. I made a conscious choice not to do it.
Right.
We thought it was a joke. Like, I'm good.
Yes,
like, I don't need that.
because I made the decision not to do it. I can't knock those that
who
decided to do it.
Right.
And whatever.
When it was available to me also.
Exactly. Because when you think about the game, okay, and when something is available to everyone, then it's fair game.
Makes it equal.
That's like when this baseball season, when they start talking about the baseballs, I told them, I said, I think that what they did with the baseballs in the 2019 season, to me, it was worse.
Equivalent to steroids.
like
It was
steroids.
worse
It's worse.
than steroids. And I'm gonna tell you why. This is why it was worse than steroids. Because when steroids was in the game, whatever percentage you want to put out there, it wasn't 100% across the board. Everybody didn't do steroids.
Right.
The baseballs they put
100%.
into the game,
Everybody threw them in.
everybody had to use the same ball.
Yes.
So it impacted everybody across the board.
Even the minor leagues.
So to me, that was worse than steroids, and that's why you saw the spike in home runs. So when you start to think about, you know, league-wise, the things in which we've done to our game, I mean, if you're gonna do that to the game, don't hold back guys that actually help lift the game back up, like the Barry Bonds and the Roger Clemens. Okay, we gotta take a break,
And the
a
Sammy
commercial
Sosa.
break.
Sammy Sosa,
This is
Mark
great
McGwire.
conversation. We'll be back with Unfiltered with Bo Porter after this commercial. At Future All-Star Sports Development Academy, we are not just raising the bar, we are setting the bar for how champions are prepared and developed.
If I keep this barrel and the knob of this bat close to my body, whenever I'm ready to deliver my barrel, I can whip it.
To become an Unfiltered with Bo Porter sponsor, call 832-799-3564 or visit our website unfilteredwithboporter.com. Thank you for watching and listening to Unfiltered with Bo Porter. This trip around the bases has come to an end. Make sure you all comment, like, and share your thoughts about this episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a trip around the bases. The Coach of Champions is out. Until the next episode.